Hi guys, welcome everyone. My name is Vera and today I'm going to show you how to paint our wonderful gnome. This painting is called Let It Snow. So it's going to be a very snowy gnome and you can see the image right here. It was originally created by our friend. His name is Gregory. He's an amazing artist who kindly gave us permission to teach this painting for you today. So before we start, let's quickly go through all our supplies to make sure we have everything that we're going to need for today. What I will be using is I'm going to be using a 9 by 12 inch canvas, but you guys are welcome to use absolutely any size. You can go bigger, you can go smaller. Just keep in mind the bigger you go, the longer potentially you're going to need and take to finish this painting. So the bigger you go, the longer it will take, the smaller you go, the faster it will be. But because this is a video recording, it's a pre-recorded video tutorial, you have all the time in the world and you can pause it at any point. And guys, remember to do that. This is the way this video is designed. It's designed for you to pause it, to give yourself enough time for every step. And only when you're ready, you can just resume the video and continue painting with me. Alright, so we're going to need the canvas. Again, any size will do. Mine is 9 by 12 inch. We are going to need a pencil because we're going to start with a sketch. If you have an eraser, that's great. If you don't have one, that's okay too, not a problem. We're going to need paint, of course. I'm going to be using standard primary colors, acrylic paint. And primary colors are yellow, red, blue, plus black and white. For this particular painting, it doesn't matter what shade of red you have, what shade of blue you have, what shade of yellow, and so on. It really is completely up to you. And of course, if you prefer to use pre-mixed colors, you're welcome to do that as well. If you're gonna go with pre-mix instead of yellow, you're gonna need a skin tone, because this is the only reason why we have yellow, or actually tiny smidge for our candle as well. But other than that, we mostly have it for a skin tone. So you can just replace that with skin tone and maybe grab a smidge of yellow for our candle, or smidge of orange, something like that. All right, and I'm gonna put this aside for now. And of course, we're gonna need some water, a couple different brushes. I'm gonna be using 3 different brushes today. Large brush. It's not really a true large because my canvas is not very large, so I would say this is more like a medium brush, but for me it's gonna be in place of a large one because this is gonna be the biggest brush that I'm gonna be using today. So this is number 10 for those who are wondering, but I really wouldn't go by numbers. I would say just grab something on a bigger side for our background. This is a background brush. We're gonna do it mostly for a background. If you have more than 3 brushes, let's say you have a variety of brushes with you, let's say you have a large set, then maybe use even a larger brush. Something like this is even more ideal for our background, but just to make it simpler, I'm gonna use 3 brushes only. But yeah, something like this would be even better, or square or pointy, really doesn't matter the shape, just something bigger for the background. Then you're gonna need something medium to medium small to color in our gnome, to do the beard, to do the hat, to do the nose, so just to color in all those medium-sized details. So for me, I have my medium small brush to help with that, and it's a square brush. But again, it doesn't matter the shape, it's more what your personal preference is. And then of course we're gonna need 1 small detailed pointy brush, and that's an important brush because we do have quite a few fine details. So this one, you need to have either number 1 or number 0 or number 2, something really small. You can go bigger than that if you want to. Just make sure that it has a nice pointy tip. That's mostly what we're looking for. And a paper towel or reusable fabric cloth, whatever you prefer. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's all the supplies that we're gonna need for today. And by the way, this video is gonna stay here pretty much forever. So just so you know, again, this is not live. This is a pre-recorded video tutorial. And if something comes up and you can't do it right now, that's okay. You can always come back and do it at any other point, whatever works for you, whenever you have a minute. or available afternoon or evening to do this, just come back and do it. It's going to be right here. All right, so what we're going to start with is we're going to sketch our Nomi Gnome. So we're going to grab our pencil, any pencil will do, and we're going to sketch him. And what we're going to start with is we're going to position our nose. And I would say it's going to be an oval somewhere right in the middle of our canvas. So let's say the middle is somewhere around here for me. So I'm just going to start by adding an oval, little potato nose. Somewhere here. And you can always adjust it later too and make it bigger or smaller. Just start somewhere. That's all we want. Like a little potato right in the middle of your canvas. Now that we have our potato nose, we're going to add our hat. I'm going to start by putting the bottom line right here just to know how wide our head is, and then we're going to go from there. So right from the, I would say around the middle, maybe a little bit higher than the middle of my nose, I'm going to put one line to the left and one line to the right. Again, super approximately, right? Starting point. We have to start somewhere. And then from here, you can make your hat any shape that you want it to be. And I'm not going to go all the way to the top, so you don't want to go all the way to the top. You want to stop just before the top, so leave a little bit of space there. And again, make it any shape that you want it to be. So I think I'm going to go from here, here, here. All right. Yeah, I like that. And then I'm gonna do the other side, and then I'm gonna do that part that drops. I notice my nose is not in the middle of my painting. Sorry, not in the middle. It's in the middle of my painting. It's not in the middle of my hat. My hat is smaller on the left side and larger on the right side, and that will just make it look like the head of your gnome is slightly tilted towards this side, and look, he's looking somewhere right there versus looking straight in the middle. Alright, and then I'm gonna add a little fold and that other piece of the head that drops on the other side. And from that piece, you can add a little ball that hangs. I'm gonna put it right here. Maybe I will drop it a little bit further. That's great. All right, that's awesome. As far as design on a hat, you could sketch it or you can just freehand it later on. It really is up to you. I'm not going to be sketching it. I'm just going to freehand it when the time comes. And I'm going to move on to my beard now. And I'm just going to add a general outline of where my beard is going to be. So I'm not going to detail sketch it. And I'm going to start it not right at the edges of my head, but a little bit closer towards the middle. And I'm just going to add like a little oval, very, very lightly. So don't push on your pencil hard, just super, super lightly. We're going to add a little oval. This is for us to know where our beard is going to be positioned when the time comes. And now I'm going to add the hands, the legs, and a candle. So I'm going to start with my legs. I'm just going to put 4 lines here. So this is leg number 1, and this is leg number 2. So do you see 4 lines? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to add those little boots. So I'm going to add a curved line here and a curved line here. Those are separating my legs from my boots. So this is going to be skin tone, this is going to be the color of my boots. And of course you can add any design, you can make them quite simple and plain as they are on this paint, or you can add, let's say, a little bit of fur around here, you know, fluff them up, make them warmer. So whatever you really want to do with them. And then I will add another line here, just again for design purposes. So design them however you would like. I added a little bit of fur on top, and I'll keep that decorative line. Great, those are my legs with shoes. And now we're gonna add the arms. So I'm gonna start with this arm, and it's not gonna start right at the edge of the head, it's gonna start a little bit in, and it's gonna go one straight line, second straight line, and a curve, and then the same back, straight line, straight line. So now we're just gonna separate it. So that's gonna be our mid here, and then we're gonna add a bit of design. Great, and the second arm is just gonna be straight line and a curve in the end. And you're not going to see them that well once we add a beard. You can see them really well right now, but later on you're not going to see that. And again, you're going to separate the bottom for the mid, and then you're going to add the same design lines that you added on that hand. And we're going to add a candle. So you're going to start by putting straight vertical line right through the mid part. If you have a ruler, you can use that, but if not, you can just freehand this line. That's great, and I'm gonna go just a little bit above the nose, and then I'm gonna add a little line right here, maybe even a little curve towards the top, like a little hill there. And I'm gonna add a little candle. In my case, it's gonna be a very short and chunky candle. With a little flame. And then I'm gonna add two decorative elements underneath. Done. Awesome. And now I'm just gonna lightly sketch my background as well. So I mean, I'm not gonna really add where the moon is. I'm just gonna freehand it. I just really need to separate the top from the bottom, and that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna have like a little hill right here, and maybe a hill somewhere there. That's great. My top and the bottom are separated. I'm good with that. All right, so now I'm gonna put my pencil aside, and I'm gonna move on to my painting. So grab your water here, grab your paint, and grab your brushes. So I'm gonna start with my largest brush, and I'm gonna start with my darkest color, which is gonna be my sky. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work on my sky for a little bit. I'm gonna be using dark blue, so my primary blue. I'm going to be using some white, and I'm going to be using a little bit of black. So just 3 colors right here. If you guys feel like you want to maybe make it a bit more complex, you're welcome to add, let's say, a purple or teal. I would say purple probably would be a very good addition if you wanted to go that direction. But again, you don't have to. Just 3 colors is plenty. So we're going to start with that, and ideally we want to not get them on our hat. So if you can, try to stay away from your hat. If you cannot, that's okay. If you get some on your head or even paint over your head, it's not a big deal. Again, because we are working from the video, we can always, just give it a bit more time to dry, and then add our hat in a couple different layers to cover up that blue completely. So again, if you can avoid it, if you cannot, not a problem. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to start by just taking my dark blue and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to color my entire top with a dark blue. And notice how I'm keeping it with a horizontal brush strokes other than the outline. Because this painting it's very impressionistic in a way because it has those large brush strokes. You know, this freedom of brushstroke, this freedom of movement. It has a lot of movement in general. So to create that movement, we're not going to overblend anything. We're going to let our brush strokes be visible, because if you overblend, you're going to lose that movement. Also guys, if you want to do your edges, feel free to do them right away. So whenever you go to the edge of your canvas, basically you will be bringing your paint right over the edge. You don't have to do this. It's not super necessary, but I personally really like the look. So I always recommend that if you don't mind spending extra couple minutes, do your edges. You're not going to regret it. However, if this is maybe your first painting or first in a very long time, you can just skip that, and you can always do your edges later when we finished painting. You can do it as very last thing and color match according to what's going on up front, or you can just choose one color and paint all the edges with that one color. So yes, you don't have to do them right away at all. You can always do it later, but also I want to mention the edges before we go too far, in case you would prefer to do them right away. So do you see I added everything in quite a horizontal brush strokes, and yeah, I got a little bit on my head, but that's again not a big deal, as I mentioned earlier. So now before all of this beauty dries, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dab off my brush on a paper towel. I'm not even gonna wash it, and I'm gonna grab a little bit of black paint and I'm gonna flick in a bit of black. So somewhere right here, closer to my upper side in the left corner, I'm gonna add in a couple of brush strokes of black. And you see, I do lightly blend them, but I don't over blend them, because the goal is not to, you know, turn that into a darker corner. The goal is to have actually a couple visible darker brush strokes. Maybe I'll add some to this corner too, just a little bit. Again, don't overdo this. Just a few is more than enough. And of course, if they come close to an edge, you're gonna bring that black over the edge too, just to continue. So whatever's going on here, you want to wrap it around your edges. And then again, I'm gonna wash off my brush this time, dab it on a paper towel, and while everything is still super wet, I'm just gonna take straight white. Not a lot, you don't need too much of it. And with straight white, I'm just gonna add a couple of brush strokes, starting from quite low and going higher. And you can refill your brush as needed. So whenever you're out of white, dab it off on a paper towel. You don't even have to wash it, unless it's really contaminated, let's say with black, in which case you can wash it. But dabbing off usually is more than enough. And you can just continue adding a bit of white from the bottom, just a couple of brush strokes again. You can bring them higher, that's not a problem, but try to keep your bottom generally lighter than your top. And again, I'm gonna dab off my brush, grab a bit more white. Maybe that was a little too much. All right. And of course, I'm gonna bring a bit of that white on my edge as well. Don't want to be ignoring my edges since I already started them. I might as well continue. Great, and I have my top. So I'm not going to do my moon yet. I'm going to let it dry up a little bit. And as that's drying, I'm going to move on to my bottom. And here I'm going to use two colors, white and light blue. So I'm going to actually start with the white. I'm just going to take straight white. Wash off your brush before you do that. Make sure it's nice and clean. And then go ahead and just color everything in with straight white. And by everything I mean all the background, not the gnome, of course. If it gets on your gnome, not a problem. Feel free to overlap those lines that you sketched. You don't have to avoid them. Like for example, candle, I'm just gonna go right over it. I can still somewhat see it through, and it's too small of an element for me to work around it. All right, and now I got quite close to my top, so I'm gonna overlap it and then my heels back. Do you see I'm overlapping it? And as I'm overlapping it, my white starts picking up a little bit of that blue underneath it, and that's okay. In this, I actually wanted that. That's why I'm doing that as a very last thing. So do you see as I'm adding my mountains there, my heels, it picks up that blue. So now that I picked up a little bit of blue, I'm gonna spread that down into my white. And again, if you are doing your edges, don't forget about them. If you are not doing your edges, totally fine, don't worry about them. So now I'm just going to continue adding a brush stroke here and there of this nice light blue. And once you run out and you don't have any more blue left on your brush, you can actually mix a little bit. So you grab some white, grab a smidge of primary blue, mix them up, and you can go back and continue adding a brush stroke here and there on your background. I'm gonna go right over my legs too, because they're such a small element. I can always add them on top, plus I can still see my pencil through. Not very bright, but I can see it. All right, I'll add a little bit onto my edge as well. Maybe I'll add a bit more darker color on the bottom. So I just added a smidge more dark blue into my light blue to make it just a little bit darker. Great. Great, 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 great. And now I'm gonna add my moon. So I washed off my brush, I dabbed it off on a paper towel. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna grab just straight white. And your background can be fully dry or still wet, that's okay. Either is fine, as long as it's not as wet as it was before. And it's a little bit drier at least, it's totally fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my moon. And yes, it blends because my paint is still wet, but I don't mind that. So that's my first layer. Now I'm gonna dab off my brush on a paper towel to get rid of that contaminated paint, that dark blue paint. And I'm gonna grab a bit more straight white, and I'm just gonna add a bit more straight white right in the middle of my moon. Awesome. Wonderful. All right, moving forward. So what I'm gonna do now is I wanna make a skin tone. So you can continue using the same brush or switch to a smaller brush. I think I'm gonna switch to a smaller brush at this point. So I'm gonna wash off this brush really well, dab it on my paper towel, and I'll put it aside. And I'm gonna grab my medium small brush, so this one. I'm gonna dip that in the water, and I'm gonna scoop some red and some yellow on the side. Majority red with a little bit of yellow. And then I'm gonna add some white to that. And you see it turn into a nice peachy, orangey color. I think I'm gonna add a bit more yellow to it. All right, and with this color, I'm gonna go closer to the edge of my nose, but on the inner side. Like this. And then I'm gonna take a bit of this paint on the side, and I'm gonna add some white to it. And with this, I'm gonna color in my middle so it looks lighter. I might even, yeah, no, I like that. I'm gonna keep it like that. And with the skin tone, with either darker or lighter version, you can go ahead and you can color in the legs, this upper part of the legs. If you want to get a little bit into a beard, that's okay, because we can always fix that up once we move on to the beard. Great, great, great. All right, now I'm gonna take a little bit of white, and I'm gonna color in those lines that are supposed to remain white on our hands here and here as well. And I'm gonna add that fur. Maybe I'll even dab it. That fur that I added on the boots. Awesome. What I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna move on to my hat. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, so we're gonna do it in 2 layers because I wanna clean it up a little bit, and to clean it up, I need to mix my red with a little bit of white. So the first layer, it's not gonna be full on red, it's gonna be more like pinkish, and that's okay. So I'm gonna grab red, majority red, lots and lots of red, but then I'm going to add just a little bit of white to it, and you'll see it will give it more like a pinker shade or orangey shade, and that's totally fine. That would be our first layer. So with the first layer, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to color everything in, and you see it fixes, it cleans up my messy background lines. Well, they're technically not the background lines, but they're messy with the background. right, so that's my first layer on my hat, but I'm also gonna add a first layer on everything else that's red in this exact color. So in this pink, I'm gonna go right here on my candle. I'll add that, and I'm gonna add a bit on my sleeves here. And of course on my boots as well. Awesome, so now I kind of have to let that dry. There's nothing that I can do until my red is drier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this video to give my red a little bit of drying time. My paint dries pretty fast, so it shouldn't be more than 5 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm just going to be doing this to help it dry up. If you have a hair dryer, you can do that too. You can just hair dry this. It usually really speeds up the process. And then whenever our pink slash first layer of red is drier, we're gonna come back and we're gonna continue painting. Alright, so my painting is pretty dry. It's not fully dry, as you can see. There's still certain areas that have a bit of paint. They're glaring, a bit of wet paint, but the rest is dry. So I'm going to continue. So what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to grab my small brush and I'm going to add a little bit more around my nose. So do you remember that paint, that darker paint that we used? I still have a bit of that, so I'm going to take that and I'm going to add a touch more red to it and a touch more yellow, just to make it a little more orange. I'm going to add that closer to the edge again, but with my small brush this time. Maybe I'll wash that off too, towards the middle. So I just washed my brush and I'm doing this with a clean, slightly wet brush. Alright, awesome. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to move back to my medium small brush. You can grab medium large, whichever really. And actually, yeah, I'm going to go with even medium large. We'll go with this one. I'm going to grab straight red this time. And I'm just going to add a second layer. So I'm going over everything. And you will see that it's going to be much, much better color now. Alright, so that's my hat. And right away, I'm going to continue working on my head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to darken up this right side. So on the same brush, not even washing it. So just using it as it is. And while everything is still super wet, I'm just going to grab a little bit of black. And with this black, I'm going to blend it right on this right side. So yes, on my red, not outside of it. And you should do it right away while everything is wet so it blends really well. And make sure you only use a little bit of black, because if you take too much black, it's going to be way too dark, because black is very dominant color. You just need a tiny smidge to make it darker. You don't need much. And what I'm doing, notice I am adding a couple of brush strokes and I'm dabbing off my brush on a paper towel to clean it up, to get rid of that extra paint, and then I'm going and I'm just blending it a little bit. Do you see? Maybe I'll take a little bit more black and add it just like a touch, and add a bit more right here. Oh yeah, that looks good. And I'm gonna take a little bit of black again, and I'm gonna add it on the side too, just like a little bit. Alternatively, what you could do if blending is not your thing, you can pre-mix the color. So you can grab a little bit of black, mix it with some red on your plate, and only then with that mixture of red and black go onto your head and darken the areas that you would like to darken. I like blending them on actual canvas because my head is still super wet, so I find that it's just very easy and convenient. But again, it's more of a personal preference. If you started doing it and you're realizing that's not working out well for you, you can pre-mix the red and black and then go back and add it pre-mix black and red. And another place where I'm going to add a little bit of that, so again I'm going to grab just a touch more black and I'm going to add it right here, like a little fold around the nose, so somewhere right here. So again, just a touch. And you see, I'm making sure my brush doesn't have too much of that paint either by just dabbing it off on a paper towel. Great, do you see now it has like a little darker fold, so you can see that the nose actually has shape. Awesome. And while everything is still wet, I'm gonna wash off my brush, dab it off on a paper towel, and I'm gonna grab straight white. And I'm gonna add 2 lines here. So that's my line number 1. And we are adding it while everything is wet so it does blend. And then I'm gonna add my line number 2. And once you have that, you can dab off your brush and just grab a little bit of extra white and just add a bit of more white on this left side to make sure it's a little bit lighter and whiter than your right side. Your right side can be a little darker. So what you could do, if it's kind of the same and if it's not darker, you can actually dab off your brush on a paper towel, make sure it's nice and clean, and you can go back and just, you know, kind of pick up and scrape off a bit of that white as well. Great, great, great. All right. So now I'm going to switch my brush. I'm going to wash off this brush. And I will put it aside, and I'm going to grab this guy, so medium small, and just straight red. And I'm going to go and add straight red on our arms here. And on our boots. And on our candle as well. And on the candle, I'm going to darken up my right side as well. So I'm just going to grab a smidge of black and I'm going to add it right here to my right side of a candle. And with the same black and the same brush, or you can use small brush for this too, I'm going to add a fine line right here. So on the two sides. And then I'm gonna grab a bit more black and I'm gonna color in the mids. And the bottom of the shoes too. And of course I'm gonna move on to my candle next. And I'm gonna grab my small brush for this. I'm gonna take just straight black and I'm gonna add that vertical line back. And then I'm gonna add that horizontal candle holder and those two fine details, fine decorative details underneath. All right, awesome. And I'm gonna add my candle flame as well. So I'm gonna start with straight red. So I'm gonna add it in straight red first. Then right over my straight red, I'm gonna make a little bit of orange. So how I do that, I'm gonna start with yellow, scoop some yellow on the side, add a little bit of red, and of course lots of white. Well, maybe that was a little too much, but definitely some white as well. Okay, so some orange, and then I'm gonna grab some of this orange and I'm just gonna add a little bit on top. And then on top of this, I'm gonna add just a smidge of yellow too. So I'm gonna mix my yellow with just a little bit of white. I'm gonna grab some yellow, add just a little bit of white into it, and with this mixture of yellow and white, I'm gonna just like a flick into my candle. You see now it's a 3-color candle. Red majority, then a bit less orange, then a smidge of yellow. All right, let's continue. And now I'm gonna grab my, actually, let me grab my small brush and I'm gonna grab a little bit of gray paint. So I'm gonna mix some black with white to make a fairly light gray. I'm not trying to make it too dark. So some sort of gray that's on a lighter side is good. And with this, I'm just gonna add a bit of a outline right here to where my red meets with white. So on the outline of the hand. So just a little bit. And then I'm gonna grab straight black. I'm gonna add a couple more lines. So I'm gonna add a line here, a line here. Here and here as well. And anywhere else where you personally might want it. And of course, a little line around our nose as well, but try to make it super, super fine. All right, here he is. And now I'm gonna wash off this brush, put it on the side, and I'm gonna move to my large or medium, whichever you want. medium would probably actually be better, but because my large is not that large, it's kind of more medium, I can use that one too. I'm gonna make actually light gray. So to this gray, I'm just gonna add a bit more white. Yeah, I think this would be a good color. Do you see it's not dark, it's pretty light. And with this color, I'm gonna start adding lines like this. Lots and lots of lines like this. So from the nose out. Ideally for this, you want to have your sleeves and everything else dry. Because if it's still super wet, you may accidentally smudge that red or black paint and bring it where you don't want it to go. So do you see what I'm doing? After I add a brush stroke, I dab off my brush on the paper towel to make sure I get rid of all that wet paint that I may have potentially picked up, red or black or any other color that I don't want to drag around. Alright, and so that's my base. Now I'm actually going to get a bit more white because I'm completely out of white here. Oh, and by the way, while I'm refilling my brush, I can show you the paint that we use for those who are wondering. This is what we use. Alright, and another thing I want to do is I want to darken up this area around my nose. So I'm going to make slightly darker gray, and this time I'm going to use my medium small brush. So I'm going to make a slightly darker gray, and I'm just going to flick from the nose out just to make sure that area is a little bit darker. Maybe I'll extend it further. All right, great. I'm gonna let this dry up for just a second, and as that's drying, I'm gonna work a little bit more on my hat and on my candle, and then once this dries, we're gonna move there and we're gonna finish it with white. So for right now, as that's drying, I'm gonna take my small brush. I'm gonna take my white paint, and I'm gonna add whatever decoration you want to add onto your head. So originally, as you can see, there are just two big snowflakes here, one here and there. You can go further and add more snowflakes. You can add hearts, you can add just dots, circles, honestly anything you can think of. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add a bigger snowflake here. So I'm gonna start with a dot. I'm gonna do flick up, flick down, flick left, flick right. And then flicks in between. And then you add a repetitive element on every next line. So for example, dot, then not on the second one, next one, the next one, the next one. Then for example, I want to add a line, 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 line. So you see a repetitive element on every second one, whatever that may be. And then I'm gonna add like a little flicks in between on each. And you can continue with this and just continue adding those repetitive elements until you feel like it's just the way you want it, and then you stop. So for me, that's it. I like it this way. And what I want to do now, I think I'm gonna add like a smaller snowflakes all around here, just because why not, right? We can decorate it however we want. Everyone can create their own decoration. So feel free to do that. Maybe I'll add a bit more white here too, on a lighter side. Oh yeah. I'll add a bit of snow over my little ball in the end here. I'll dab up this line going up. That's a start. All right, now let's do our candle. So I'm still using the same small brush. I'm gonna just dab up a bit of snow on this flat candle holder piece. And on top part of my candle. Great. And I'll just add a little highlights to all those elements. And to this pole going down. See, just a little highlight. Great. Awesome. All right, so I think my beard is drier now, so I can continue adding lines to my beard. So now I'm gonna use just straight white. Again, you can use something medium-ish, medium small, medium large, whichever. And we're just gonna add a whole bunch of lines in straight white. All right, and one more little thing that I'm gonna do before adding my snow is I'm gonna go back to my small brush now. I'm gonna take a little bit of black, just a tiny touch of black. And I'm gonna add that I'm gonna add that outline around the nose back because I kind of lost it while I was adding my brush strokes on a beard. So just a bit of that black around my nose. And a couple small lines in between here on a beard. right, and after this I am ready to add my snow. So I'm gonna switch back. I'm gonna wash this off, wash this brush, and dab it off on a paper towel, and I'm gonna switch back to either medium or large, and I would suggest something medium is best. And also, if you have a choice between square brush at this point and a pointy brush, I would always choose pointy brush. It's just easier for snow. So I'm gonna continue with my biggest brush, but I'm just gonna use the very tip of it because it's a pointy brush. I can make a variety of size of dabs here. If I push harder, they're gonna be bigger. If I push just with the tip of my brush, they're gonna be smaller. So I'm gonna try to have fairly small ones. So I'm just gonna dip it in white, and I'm gonna add snow all over. So basically all around our painting, we're gonna dab it up to add the snow. And again, ideally I would recommend a pointy brush if you have one of any shape. And don't avoid your head or candle or really anything. We're just adding snow all over the painting. We're not avoiding anything. Not avoiding the nose, not avoiding the head, not avoiding the background, not avoiding anything. And guys, again, if you need to give it a bit more time to dry in between, because maybe it's still too wet for you to continue and your colors are just blending too much, you absolutely can do that. Go at your own pace, because all our paints, they dry at different speed, right? My paint is generally quite fast drying paint. I know some acrylic dries slower, but also some acrylic dries faster than mine. So just see for yourself at what pace you should be going, and take as many breaks as needed. And also what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a bit of snow. You can use small brush for this or medium, whichever you prefer. I'm gonna add a bit of snow on a mitt, and I'm gonna add a bit of snow on my nose right here, and of course a bit of snow on top of the head. And ta-da! Our Nomi friend is finished. And of course, guys, feel free to sign it. Don't forget to do that. Choose a good spot, and you can put your name, your signature, your initials, anything that you would like. Whatever you prefer, just choose a spot somewhere and put it there. And you can put anything. Anything. If you've done your edges, great. You have a ready to hang painting, like what I have here. If you haven't done your edges, you have options. So option number one is you can color match what's going on here. So basically, again, you make the color that's here. Here would be the same three colors, blue, black, and white, and wrap them around the edges. And here would be white and light blue. Or you can choose one color. So for example, blue or light blue or black that's present on your background, and do all the edges in that one color. So those are all options that you could do, and that way when you hang your painting, it's going to look finished and complete from every angle. And guys, thank you for joining me. I would love to see how they turn out. So if you don't mind, feel free to take a photo, and you can post it in our Facebook group that's specifically made for people to share the results from our painting tutorials. So please do that. The link to the group is in the description of the video. You can find it there. and I'll also include it in comments here so you can find it in both places. So feel free to do that. We always love seeing how your paintings turn out. If you'd rather not, that's okay. We don't want to pressure you into doing this either. So again, would love to see it, but if not, that's okay. No pressure at all. If you guys have not subscribed to our channel yet, please do that as well. We have a lot of awesome video tutorials here already, but we're also adding at least one every week. Sometimes we add 2, 3 a week. So feel free to like our channel and subscribe to stay up to date on what's coming up and when they are released. And also, guys, if you enjoyed painting with me and you want to say thank you by tipping me, I would never say no to that. You can find a PayPal tip link in the description of this video as well. You just click on it and you choose send money. Do not choose request money, send money. And you can just add any amount. Tips are always welcome and appreciated. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and let's do this again sometime soon. Bye everyone.